Hey, I'm Channing, and this is Accucraft at the Triennial, Train Mountain Triennial 2022. 1 year delayed from the pandemic, but this is the world's largest
miniature railroad.
Miniature road. It's the world's largest miniature road. It's the world's largest get-together.
World's largest gathering
of 7.5-inch railroad. And I'm here with David Coster. Introduce yourself.
I'm Dave Coster. I work with Accucraft, and behind me is one of the trains that is currently at the convention here at Train Mountain. But back to the story. Accucraft and I teamed up a couple of years ago to produce top-of-the-line quality equipment for the hobby. We originally had, when I started working, they had a GP40, and we've added the GP38 to the line in our 1.6 scale.
You've helped us a lot with improving the electronics, getting the sound system working, radio control, and all the new motor controllers can handle a lot of pulling power.
A lot of pulling power. These locomotives come with 4 traction motors. They come with 4 batteries if you order them. They're 24-volt systems, 140 amp power modules. We offer them in a straight analog, tethered version. We have them available with sound, and we have them available with sound and radio control, or just radio control by itself. They are MU-able. You can do multiple unit lash-ups just by connecting the Cat5 cables that we use for controlling from one to the next. They have excellent pulling power. Most of the weights, they weigh around 600 pounds apiece, so you are going to have the tractive effort you need to pull 10, 20 people behind the cars in most layouts. So these are custom painted for the particular customer. We do that. So when you pick the road, we'll paint them whatever you're looking for. You can find all this on our website, including our pricing. So feel free to look up livesteamstation.com and see what we're doing. This is the bicentennial one that I've been hauling around at our demo. It is now being taken out on its maiden voyage.
No, we went to lunch.
Oh, you went to lunch and then you came back. So you snuck a trip in before I got back.
Happy now.
Happy now?
Yeah.
Oh, of
And
course.
it lights up so it's like in the train.
How far are you guys
Oh,
going?
is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's spread.
Yeah.
Spread
Mike, how far are you guys going?
From the convent.
Down there. Right? You want to go? Jump on. So David, tell us more about the features of this.
Okay. Our locomotives have 4 350-watt motors, one on each axle, electric. We have 4 deep cycle marine batteries to give you plenty of power to run all day long. One of the things about Accucraft equipment that I haven't seen on any other manufacturers is we made ease of access to the interior of your locomotives. What we decided to do is not have to remove the whole hood and move the handrails. We set it up to where you can pull off roof panels, one to get to the control panel, and a second lift to get access to the batteries. We just set this down over here and give you a quick rundown on the system. There are 4 deep cycle marine battery type operation. These 2 are in parallel for 12 volts. These 2 in parallel for 12 volts. And at this point, they're in series to get you your 24 volts to operate the control module. And this is our slow blow fuse in the middle for safety features. It'll pop if you'd run to there. This is the tap point for your 12 volts and all your 12 volt system. This is an unusual thing that I haven't seen any other manufacturers use. It's a 24 volt battery equalizer. Bank A is your lower 12 volts. Bank B is your upper 12 volts. And what that does is, as you're pulling 12 volts for your sound system, your headlights, and these batteries get used more, this will shunt power to this set of batteries so they stay in equilibrium. So basically you're discharging equally and you're also charging equally, so you really don't have to run out and buy a smart charger for these engines. You can just use a dumb 24-volt straight charging unit because we have the built-in smart charger in the locomotive themselves. This is the power module that controls the motors. All motor leads are currently run up to here, so there is no joining wires down below. This will eventually have a next unit will have a bus block here, so there'll be easier access. This is your battery input to the power module. This is for radio control and sound system. This is the digital control module that takes the Cat5 connectors that are on both ends of the engine, front of the engine, back of the engine. Output to the amplifier for the sound system. And this is where we keep the Loc sound card. Because we use Loc sounds on our locomotives, so you can program that all you want. This engine was not ordered with radio control, but if it did, the radio control transmitter would plug in here, and the other end of the receiver transmitter would be inside this box. So they're currently removed because this wasn't sold that way, but if you bought it, it would be plugged in there and plugged in here. This is your handheld controller. We separate it ergonomically to the locomotive controls are on the top, the sound systems are on the bottom. If this was a radio control, there would be a battery pack on the back with an on-off switch. It would still have the tethered, because even our radio control unit, we know that batteries wear out in the most inconvenient time. You could take a Cat5 cable out of your container when you run radio control and it dies. Plug it into here, plug it into your locomotive, and it will automatically switch to tether mode and you can continue running. That's just one of the features that we have available that are standard. We also have a standard road speed switch and a switcher speed switch. So when you're running around the yard and you want to use the full throttle, you got a much better speed range between 0 and 3 miles an hour on the throttle, because that'll be about 3 at full. If you're in your road mode, you're from 0 to 8 miles an hour. So it's just a way to operate safely in the yards. That's built into it. We have a separate switch for running the number boards on the locomotive. This one still has to get the numbers put in it. And then so you can do number boards on and off. And all locomotives come with a high beam, off, low beam feature. High beam, off is center, and low beams. Horn switch, right now it's not plugged in so the horn's not running. And then we also have another switch down here, which if you're running sound system and you're using the sound horn, and nobody seems to want to listen to your sound horn, you can switch it back to the auxiliary horn, which is a pair of car horns up in here, and make a lot of noise to remind people to get out of your way. And that's just a switch here, so this will hit whichever horn is currently selected to. And of course the bell switch, volume up and down, on and off. Very simple, very straightforward. Ergonomic. It's an ergonomic handheld, easy to carry. If you wanted to slap Velcro on the back and put it on a panel, it's all up to you. But it's a nice, easy design. Our on-off safety switch is inside the cab. Is where you have your battery disconnect switch. And one nice thing about ours, with the battery disconnect switch, on the charger, it will still charge. Not like some other manufacturers that you have to have the power on switch to hit the charger. We wired ours, so with the switch out, you can still charge the locomotive. It just can't run the locomotive. There is an option. That switch is mounted on the wall between the battery compartment and the cab, up here in the back. You can reach it and do that. We also have, I might as well just show you, underneath the pop-off hood is where we keep our horns for your auxiliary horns. The amplifier and the two speakers, two 6.5-inch woofer speakers, are inside the fuel tank, which comes off with 4 screws. But you could move the on-off switch up here. This is the mounting bracket for, there's one here and there's one back in the cab. So whichever you prefer, we can do it. Each locomotive comes with an MU cable So if you decide you and the buddy have an engine, or you have two engines, the MU cable from the Cat5 connector to the Cat5 connector on this one would allow these two to run as one unit. Also, when you're running MU, the circuitry's set up so the headlights on this will stay off, only the headlights on the front unit will come on. So that's all built into the system. If you're going to supply your own battery charger, we supply you with the other end connectors for your battery charger, and that's all part of the system. We also give you, if you're doing the sound system, you get your quick start guide from Loc Sound all in here, and it's also a good place to store the handheld when you're not operating. Don't have to tell anybody, but over time with this video they'll probably figure out where it's kept. Snaps into place, and then the reach in the window on this particular one, you put in the key, turn the locomotive on. I'll do it with the, come to the back of the engine, get into the Cat5 connector back here, and try to get it in the shade. You turn the power on. Power didn't automatically come on right away because there's about 15 second, 20 second, depends on going through its technical guidance. As you can see now, the lights have come on. It went through and it checked to make sure everything is, here we go in the shadows. Okay, so can you see? Yeah, you can see the lights. There'll be this light end here is a blue light on the end, and that's when you're really fully charged. And it's been on the charger for quite a while. It'll say, okay, the charger should be done. You got your full 24 volts, maybe a little 25 volts when it's fully charged. You run it till you get down to the one red LED. It should go into a safety mode where you can limp back to a charging station. You're not out of power when you're down to one light. You're just down to the point where you need to find a charging station. So that's how that works. Here's the, that's just the straight auxiliary horn. Sound is off. I turn the sound on. Right now I'm in auxiliary horn mode. So even with sound on, I got the auxiliary. But if I wanted the sound horn, it needs a little bit more volume up, and we're going to bring on that. We're going to go ahead and hit the Loc Sound chart programmer and bring the Loc Sound up. That's pretty much access to the locomotive. If you need any more specific information, you can always contact us at the shop. As this sits with 4 batteries, this electrical sound system and the horns, you're roughly at 600 pounds on a locomotive. I've actually had one on a scale out in Indiana, and it weighed 598 pounds. So I rounded it up 2 pounds. So for a few other oddball things. Other than that, we offer it in our standard GP40 or our GP38 model, which is this Burlington Northern unit in the front. We also offer it without dynamic brakes, and most people that understand what I'm talking about, that's where this dynamic brake blister is not installed on the engine. It's just the standard round feature. So if you're in, if the Road U model has non-dynamic brake versions, you can just order it with that. We don't currently have any of them here at Train Mountain that were non-dynamic brake version. Everybody up here on the West Coast tends to want dynamic brakes. I know the East Coast people tend not to want to have dynamic brakes on their engine that they're modeling. So we set this in first, get it in and drop it straight down, locks into place. It's metal. Then you take this one, and I usually use the lift rings so I don't pinch my fingers. Pop it into place. Just like that, all popped into place, ready to go. The other features you'll see on our engines, just for some detail work, all our hinges and all our door handle locks are individually put on parts. All the door panels are individual pieces. As you can well see these, give it the close-up. It's a high higher level of detail than you'll find on most manufacturers at our price range. We have EMD snow plows come standard with the engine. If you want it without, all you got to say, hey, I want it without. If you want it without, you can order it with it, unbolt it, ask your friend if he wants to buy it from you, and sell the plow to him. So it's up to you. So if you're interested in anything, feel free to look us up at our website, livesteamstation.com.